This episode of World Wellness Education is made possible by a production grant from the Milhorn Law Firm. Have you or a loved one ever suffered an injury due to the negligence of another? Then it's time to turn to a law firm that you know and trust, one with a record of client satisfaction and integrity. Hello, my name is Ryan Milhorn, and the Milhorn Law Firm has been representing personal injury clients in the Central Florida area for over 20 years. Our attorneys live in this community and are very proud to call it home. The Milhorn Law Firm, the law firm you know and trust.
Hi, I'm Tracy Brosman, co-founder of World Wellness Education, a community forum to educate, encourage, and inspire a better way of life. We commonly face day-to-day challenges of stress, lack of exercise, and poor eating habits. But with the right approach, we can find freedom, wake up each morning feeling healthy, focused, and ready to take on the day. Together, we can make a difference, one story at a time. Death is something that we all must deal with. The grief of losing a friend or family member often causes sadness, sleeplessness, uncontrolled crying, inability to concentrate, tiredness, and loss of appetite. Our guest today is Suzanne Giesemann. Suzanne spent 20 years as a U.S. Navy officer serving at the highest levels. Suzanne had to face the loss of people close to her in her life. She worked at the Pentagon in 2001 and was on the last plane flying in the U.S. airspace during the 9/11 tragedy. A few years later, she lost her stepdaughter and unborn grandchild to a tragic accident. Suzanne Giesemann is the author of 9 books. Today, she will share how she transformed her grief to love-centered living. Thank you, Suzanne, for joining us.
Thanks, Tracy. It's great to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here. We're talking about a very heavy topic today, though, of course. Grief.
That's true, but it's about transforming that into something better so we can keep it as light as possible.
Exactly. But let's talk a little bit about what it was like on 9/11.
That was quite a day. I, at that time, had the honor of serving as the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the highest ranking military officer that we have, and that was General Hugh Shelton. I was at his side as we were flying over the Atlantic. We were on our way to England, where he was going to be knighted by Queen Elizabeth later that week, and that's when we got the word about the attacks on the World Trade Center. And I remember going to the cockpit and telling the pilot, turn the plane around, we're going back to Washington. By this time, every other aircraft in U.S. airspace had been grounded. So I remember our aircraft crew, Air Force crew, saying the codes into the radio, secret codes that they had only ever used in exercises, but this time for real, so that they wouldn't shoot us down.
Oh my.
It was memorable to say the least. And then we flew right over Manhattan. And so I have photos in several of my books of the World Trade Center burning, photos that nobody else has because nobody else was in the air. We landed in Washington, D.C., and immediately went to the Pentagon, my office building, and into the burning building, and then around the outside where I had to step over jet engine pieces on the grass before gaping at that hole in the side of the building.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was very up close and personal.
Yeah, very tragic.
And the hardest part for me was working in that building where so many had lost their lives. And they put up picture boards of the 189 people that lost their lives at the Pentagon, along with personal stories of each one of them. And that was just very difficult to deal with because you would read those stories, and these were people just like me, just like all of my colleagues, and realizing that it could have been any of us. That's what gets you thinking, you know, why were some people in the right place at the wrong time and others weren't? It was quite a sobering time for everybody in this country, in the world, but it really changed a lot for me.
So tell me, at that time, did you deal with your grief how did you deal with it?
I dealt with it by a lot of soul searching, asking those kinds of questions that I just mentioned to you, turning to self-help books, to spirituality, and yes, I changed for a while, but then it became just a little too painful to bear, so I just didn't think about it anymore. I kind of ran away from it in my mind. I had
and
to deal with.
That's a form of dealing with it in a way.
That
too.
is a form, and that's how I dealt with it. I was so grateful that I didn't have to feel that grief and that tragedy that so many families did, and that made me feel bad. But I know that your viewers can understand how sometimes we just don't want to deal with that.
Right, and even though you might have felt bad in one way, you probably felt blessed in another way that you had your life, and also thankful that you could still do other things.
Absolutely, but at the time, my husband and I had for many years a dream to go off sailing into the sunset on our sailboat, and it was 9/11 that showed me life is too short not to live your dreams. I was a commander at the time, and I had heard of one Navy commander who was within 1 week of retiring when he was killed in those attacks. So I looked at my husband and I said, we need to go live that dream and go sailing. And we did. We retired the day that I had 20 years in the Navy, and the very next day we set off cruising on our sailboat for 3.5 years.
Wow. So that must have been fun.
Oh, it was wonderful.
And soul searching at the same time.
Well, again, I didn't have to think about those heavy life questions, and it was beautiful. We went where the wind blew us and enjoyed a wonderful adventure. We sailed to Canada and the Bahamas 2 seasons in a row, and then we headed east and sailed across the Atlantic Ocean into the Mediterranean and through the Mediterranean. But that's when I learned that you can run away and you can hide from these types of things for a while, but if we're here to learn certain lessons, they're going to catch up with us, and it was while we were in the Mediterranean that it caught up with us.
And tell me what happened then.
Well, you mentioned about losing my stepdaughter, and we were off of Croatia when we got an email that we needed to phone home, and upon calling home, learned that my husband's daughter, Susan, who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, had been crossing the flight line at work when, out of the blue, she was struck by lightning.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the nearest storm was 10 miles away. It wasn't even raining. And she was 6 months pregnant at the time, and so we lost both of them at one time. So all of this grief that I had felt so blessed, as you say, to avoid at 9/11 was now suddenly fully upon me and upon our family members, and watching my husband suffering so greatly from grief was really almost as much as I could bear.
Wow. So you guys ended up coming home?
We did. We left the boat in Turkey. Mm-hmm. And came home for about a year before bringing the boat back, and just to get our feet back on the ground, literally. But that is when I began my own transformation. I could run away from it after 9/11, but after Susan died, it really opened up those big questions about why are we here? What is life all about? If it's so short for some people, how do we make the most of it? And what transformed my life was that I began the practice of meditation daily just after Susan died. And that is how I have come to this place with an understanding of death, with an understanding of our purpose in life, and experiencing greater wellness than I have ever experienced in my life.
Now, did you meditate beforehand?
I never had. And in fact, the first 3 weeks that I tried meditating, I would fall asleep every time. If there's anything I can tell people about meditation, it's stick with it. You don't get great benefits all at once. It's cumulative. Definitely, it adds up.
So, well, let's talk a little bit more about meditation. Some people have the thought of meditation as sitting in lotus pose in Om for hours at a time. Is that the type of meditation you did?
Now, you have to imagine this Navy officer here, this by-the-book commander that still stands at attention when I stand up. I'm not the kind of person to sit in the lotus position for long. So I would just sit in a chair like this with my feet flat on the ground and just close my eyes. And there are many types of meditation, and mine was simply the sitting in the silence with some beautiful meditative music and calming the mind, calming the body, and trying to attune to something greater than myself, just asking to feel that presence. And it wasn't long before I did feel that presence, and it's that knowingness that led to more and more experiences of a beautiful, blissful nature that let me know that we are surrounded by love, and that that's why we're here, to express that love. And this has all come about through the meditation. So not only does it heal your body, it heals your whole spirit, your whole mind.
So, and it was able to heal you from your grief.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It has given me a whole other way of viewing death, of viewing life. And if that's not healing, I don't know what is.
Definitely. Now,
Yeah.
do you meditate for long periods of time?
You don't need to spend hours a day or even an hour a day. I think anybody that can spend and spare only 5 minutes a day to meditate will reap incredible rewards from that, because it is not quantity but quality, and setting a very clear intention when you sit down to meditate. Why are you doing this? For your health, for your wellness, and to find out why you're here, to feel that love connection, to feel who you really are.
Yeah, sometimes if you're pondering a question, you can't find the answer sitting in a meditative state. I know that sometimes I only get 5 minutes a day, and
Right.
I see the benefits greatly.
Right.
And of course, if I can do longer, then that's wonderful also.
Yes. My average time is about 15 to 25 minutes every morning, and I think that it's very important to do it regularly, to make it a priority in your life.
Just like brushing your teeth,
Absolutely.
putting on your deodorant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this led you to finding that living a life full of love, and as you call it, love-centered living.
Love-centered living. That is my focus. It's what I do now in my writing, in my teaching, in the workshops that I give. I teach and talk about how others can live from love at the center. We call it love-centered living because it's learning that we're so much more than just a person that goes to work and does the dishes. We're here to learn to love each other. And a lot of people forget that because
we get stuck with the dishes. We get stuck with having to go to work, pick up the kids, take out the dogs,
right.
do the laundry.
But when you sit in meditation and you feel that flowing through you and you recognize that's who I am, a loving person, and I'm here to express that. Love-centered living means that you take every opportunity to do so. And we get in the habit of responding to the triggers in our life and the people that push our buttons with anger or with judgment. Love-centered living means you remain conscious that you're here to express love, and you change those habits and respond in a whole different way. And that affects everything about you. It affects you at your cellular level so that you're no longer experiencing disharmony or dis-ease, which is the opposite of wellness. So all of this comes about from meditation.
So great benefits for your health too.
That is the point, absolutely. It helps everything, mental health, physical health. Love heals everything.
Yeah.
And you find that love by sitting in meditation.
So, well, can you give us a few tips on how to go about our days with love-centered living? Because that can be difficult as we go through our days.
It begins with reprogramming your thoughts, and affirmations are a great way to do that. And so you have to form new habits. So make a list, make yourself reminders that you're going to live from a love-centered place, and make it a habit to meditate regularly. The amount of devotion that you put into this, the greater your intention, the greater the rewards are going to be. And people who practice this will start to see greater benefits, and it becomes something then that you don't want to live without. To me, meditation, while not exciting, is one of the highlights of my day. So the only tip I can give people is just try it. Just try it. At first, to me, this former commander, to say to my husband, I'm going to go meditate now, honey. You know,
Did he look at you kind of funny the first time you said that?
It sounds highfalutin, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, elitist. I'm not sure what the term is, but it felt strange to me to say, I'm going to go meditate. And now it's really, it's nothing fancy. It's just shutting out the outer world so you can get to know your inner world. That's all it is.
So you can listen a little bit better too. I think we learn to listen to ourselves better.
You train to quiet your mind, absolutely, so that you do listen more to your inner thoughts and higher guidance.
And your body.
Absolutely. You're much more aware of signs that your body is not in harmony. There's something wrong. And many times you're much more aware of your intuition speaking to you.
So affirmations are a powerful way. Is there anything else?
Well, I actually have a 20-page guide to meditation that's available on my website, so I could give you the Cliff's Notes summary of it, or people can go and download that for free from my website.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Now, what is your website?
It's loveatthecenter.com. Pretty easy to remember.
That is very easy.
Yes.
So as we go through our days with love-centered living, of course, that probably changes the way people start to react to us also.
You see how people react when you smile. They get a lift. They react kind of with surprise often, which is a shame. We should all be smiling at each other all the time. But you know, you can radiate love without even smiling and notice that people respond to that. It can become like an experiment to walk through the Publix grocery store or the Sweet Bay and just give off love and watch how people turn their heads and say, I want what she has. Yeah.
Well, or if we're talking with somebody who may be having a bad day, maybe it's the waiter or the clerk at the post office, just responding to them in a different way. You know, if they are maybe saying something we don't want to hear and they're getting kind of, you know how people get defensive right away?
Oh yes, and this is our reaction. If we have a surly waiter or the clerk is not responding the way we want, automatically the human reaction is to get back in their face.
Yeah.
But when you make it your intention to live a love-centered life, when somebody does that to you, you catch yourself and you turn up the love and you respond with a smile or a loving, kind comment, and the whole situation turns around. The outcome is far better than it would have been otherwise. You see that reaction and you know you've just given that person a gift, but you've given yourself a gift as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And this program is about healing from grief, and we may have veered off that topic, but not really.
Yeah.
Because when you sit in meditation, you can ask for guidance. How do I deal with my grief? It's prayer. It's a form of prayer. Mm-hmm. Help me to overcome this pain that I'm feeling. Fill me with love. Let me know everything's going to be okay. This is what I did. And it just floods through you, and you have this realization that I'm not in this alone.
Now, was that immediate, or was it something that over a period of time that you started to feel more and more of it?
It was gradual, and of course, some might say that you're going to heal from your grief gradually anyway, but I would counter that many people get stuck in grief, and meditation is the way to get unstuck.
And what were some other questions that you may have asked yourself through that healing process?
Well, this gets into some very deep questions, like why did this have to happen to a 27-year-old, and why did that bolt of lightning come out of the blue? And these are some very deep metaphysical questions, and I could never have answered those myself. But when you sit and connect with God, with a higher source, you hear the answers. And I've been very, very satisfied with the answers. And again, that is a form of healing that's beyond anything that any outside practitioner could have given me.
So before you went through this grieving process, you were sailing around the world, and then you've meditated and you were given guidance on living a love-centered life.
Yeah.
How has that changed your life from sailing around the world, kind of going where the wind blows you, as you say?
Well, I think that my husband would probably love to still be sailing around the world, but he sees now how the teaching that I do, the one-on-one help that I'm giving to other people, the books that I'm writing, the workshops that I give are helping others to heal themselves. It's giving them tools. It's helping them to awaken to who they are. And he sees that this is God's work. This is wonderful healing that is taking place, and fully supports me. So now we still do our traveling, but we're not sailing around the world. I don't think that I've changed much in our relationship, but I have certainly been completely transformed, and it's all good. It's all for the good.
And so you've written books to help people, and then you have your workshops.
Yes.
And what would somebody get at one of your workshops?
They would get tools to apply immediately to learn how to live this love-centered life, about understanding the interconnectedness of all of us, about how to work with this love energy that is who we are, about how to attune to this higher guidance, and how to realize that we don't have to be the victims of tragedies, how we can have our own power and we can translate that into a a truly wonderful and wondrous life. All kinds of very practical tools. And I'm very excited that there is a film coming out about this transition I've made. It has the same name as my book, Messages of Hope. And my husband and I are going on a book tour and a film tour this summer to help share that message, the messages of hope that come through in meditation, in that connection with as wide an audience as possible.
Well, and that's a wonderful thing, that there is hope.
Absolutely.
And you made a great comment there as far as being a victim. And I think that that's probably what I'm hearing you say, is that through meditation, you were able to take yourself from being the victim and realize that it's not about being a victim. Unfortunately, everybody is going to die. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we're all going to know people who were very close to us. And so by being able to meditate and to practice asking some of those tough questions can take us from being in that victim mode.
Well said.
So, is there anything else that you would like to give people as far as hope on how that they can move forward in their grieving process?
Yes, that the best thing people can do is realize that when we lose someone, they would not want us to continue grieving. And it's to have the big picture and step back and step away from the grief. It's not a necessary state to stay in. We don't have to get stuck. And so just be able to put yourself in that loved one's shoes and say, it's not necessary to stay there. I'm still with you. Things will be better. And just know that we are not alone. We don't face these challenges alone. And to make that connection, you need to learn to sit in the silence and find that connection for yourself.
And then it's okay to cry while we're there.
Absolutely. That's a release. That's very necessary.
And I have read Messages of Hope, which is a beautifully written book, and it brought a lot of hope and a lot of insight to me. And so can people get that anywhere, or? Oh
yes, that's at bookstores and online, Amazon.com, and through my website, loveatthecenter.com as well. I would like to point out that I now have a free meditation recording that people can download from the website.
Oh, wonderful.
It's called the 10-Minute Transformation. Once again, proof that you don't need 30 minutes or an hour. If anybody can spare just 10 minutes, they can begin to transform their own life.
And I'm sure that that has music along with it.
Oh, beautiful music by a wonderful, inspired composer named Frederick Delarue.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I get to interview Frederick on one of our conference calls, so
Great.
I'm really excited about that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining us today and sharing your journey of healing from grief.
Thank you, Tracy. It was a pleasure.
And together we make a difference, one story at a time. If you would like to find more information about World Wellness Education, please go to our website at worldwellnesseducation.org. You can also join our membership for free and get lots of different advice on articles, tips, and recipes. Would you like to have more energy in your day-to-day life? Who wouldn't, right? However, the energy that I want to talk about today is not necessarily that type of energy. It is even more important to understand because it impacts your entire life. Even though we learned how energy is created in our early school years, I want to go over a refresher with you just to make sure we are all on the same page. Energy is the motion of molecules, and molecules are made up of atoms. If you look under a high-powered microscope, you would see that atoms are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. Protons, neutrons, and electrons are made up of particles of energy. In quantum physics, they have proven that energy moves as a result of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and intentions. Your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and intentions create your life. Everything you see around you right now is a result of this. This is why visualization techniques that get all of the senses in your body working are so powerful. The more love, joy, and gratitude you can drum up during your visualization exercises, the quicker you can manifest what you want in your life. This is also why worry works so well. Most of us can really get into visualizing very dramatically what we are worried about. Dr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist, has been able to photograph how our thoughts affect the molecules of water. From Dr. Emoto's work, we are provided with factual evidence that human vibrational energy, thoughts, words, ideas, and music affect the molecular structure of water. Water comprises over 70% of the human body and covers roughly the same amount of our planet. Water is a very malleable substance and can easily adapt its physical shape from liquid to gas to solid. However, its physical appearance is not the only thing that changes. The molecular shape of water also changes. The energy or vibrations of the environment also change the molecular shape of water. In this sense, water not only has the ability to visually reflect the environment, but it also molecularly reflects the environment. Now imagine, if thoughts can do this to water, what can thoughts do to us? The distilled water looks fairly unremarkable. However, when Dr. Emoto taped the words, "You make me sick, I will kill you," the water molecules get ugly and angry looking. Dr. Emoto also took pictures of a frozen water molecule that was charged with the words, "I love," taped to the bottle. It changed into a beautiful crystalline structure. It is important to truly understand that your emotions and thoughts play a huge role in your health. For example, let's say that you are around someone who has a cold. Your first thought might be, "Oh my, I hope I don't catch that from them. I better be careful and not get too close." Then in a few hours, you might sneeze or you might get a tickle in the back of your throat. Then you think, "Oh no, I can't believe it. I'm sick. I caught so-and-so's cold." Once you make this declaration, you really are sick within minutes. However, now that you are aware of how powerful your thoughts are, you can choose to have a different outcome. When you encounter the person with a cold, you can now be aware of what you think. As your old thought pattern starts, you can stop it and replace the thought with, "I am so thankful that I have an incredibly strong immune system that keeps me healthy and well." If you sneeze a little while later or begin to develop a sore throat, do not think that you are now sick. You can think, "My immune system is so strong that it is now doing everything it can to keep me healthy and full of energy." As you continue to align your thoughts, feelings, and emotions with good health and a strong immune system, you may see that you are indeed very healthy. Positive thoughts can be good for our health. This information is not meant to be medical advice. No action or inaction should be taken solely on the contents of this information. Instead, you should consult appropriate health professionals on any matter relating to your health and well-being. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can catch this show each week on Lakefront TV. To find out more about World Wellness Education, check out our website at worldwellnesseducation.org. We'll see you next time.
This episode of World Wellness Education is made possible by a production grant from the Milhorn Law Firm.
We at the Milhorn Law Firm believe that important decisions in planning should not be put on hold. These planning decisions affect not only you, but your children and heirs. My name is Eric Milhorn. I'm one of 7 attorneys here at the Milhorn Law Firm. We've been very fortunate. We've been able to serve the Central Florida area for a period of over 20 years. All the attorneys at the Milhorn Law Firm live in this area and are proud to call this area our home.
The Milhorn Law Firm, the law firm you know and trust.